Let's go. Don't mind the control room anymore. We will go capture the Godorin. The scavengers hurriedly retreated, and Serpent Braid had to give up on the control room that was right in front of his eyes. Han Xiao then finally realized the scavenger's goal. The scavenger's target is Kurlod. Han Xiao felt like there had to be more behind this. At that moment, the other side of the passageway exploded in a burst of yellow, and the shadow of a spear danced through the air as it pierced through multiple scavengers. The scavengers that got hit all fell on the ground. Kurlod had finally arrived. Godorin. Serpent Braid could not have been happier. He never would have expected the prey to show up all by himself. Serpent Braid roared and ran to Kurlod with his war hammer in hand. Boom! Kurlod held up his shield to block. However, he appeared incapable of withstanding Serpent Braid's brute force and had to take a few steps back after the impact. Just as Serpent Braid was about to follow up with another blow, over a dozen players suddenly appeared behind Kurlod. They were all filled with energy, and it was obvious that they were all battle-ready supers. The scavengers suddenly lost their numerical advantage as that number of super could easily destroy them. Serpent Braid's expression underwent a drastic change, as the rage was suddenly replaced with shock and despair. Frenzied Sword and a group of other players stood guard at the door to the launch bay for the escape pods while chatting with each other out of boredom. Everyone else is fighting while we're just sitting here doing nothing. It's not fair, complained Perfumed Bear. After chatting for a while more, the sound of footsteps suddenly arose from the far side of the launch bay. Lurden showed up, and he frowned at the players. "You aren't scavengers. Who are you lot? Who are you?" retorted Frenzied Sword. Lurden did not answer the question. He could tell that the players were not scavengers from their gear, and he suddenly felt alarmed as he did not know whether they were friend or foe or why they were guarding the escape pods. "Someone told us to watch over here. The others are currently fighting the scavengers back on the ship, and things are looking good. Why would we run? There are still people fighting back." Lurden's eyes gave away his surprise, and he asked, "How many more companions do you have?" "About 30 or 40. Lurden had thought that the main control room was certainly lost without him defending it. However, the sound of fighting and what this group of people had just told him clearly proved otherwise. He finally realized that he was not the only one trying to fight back against the scavengers. These people seemed quite capable, and the situation at the main control room seemed to be under control. So, there was no reason to escape anymore. I can still go back to help now and earn some money from the captain. Lurden had a change of mind and gave up on running away. Following the last anguished scream, Serpent Braid became the last scavenger standing in the passageway. His shaky form and his body full of wounds, along with his uneven breaths, made him look like a beast on its last leg. Kurlod fought alongside the players and had cleared away the other scavengers. Serpent Braid realized that the situation was getting bad and decided to break away from the fight. However, Han Xiao never gave him a chance. In a one-on-one, Han Xiao completely suppressed Serpent Braid. "Tell me, who hired you? Why are you trying to kidnap the Godorin?" Serpent Braid let out an angry snort before saying, "Don't even think that I will tell you that. Those in our line of work do not sell out our clients." Han Xiao smiled coldly and threatened, "Although we can get a bounty for turning you in, that doesn't mean that we have to turn everything in completely. Give me the information before I start taking parts off of you." "My client is Dark Star," Serpent Braid answered almost instantly. Han Xiao smirked. "A scavenger talking about loyalty. Ha. Kurlod, who stood to the side, immediately turned serious. "Dark Star? Dark Star has been buying pure-blooded Godorins in secret, for a blood sacrifice or something. The starting prices for captured Godorins were very high. We thought that it was a godly opportunity when we found a Godorin aboard a low-end commercial spaceship, so we contacted Dark Star to make some good money. This was why Han Xiao wanted to travel with some higher-end travel companies, but Kurlod was just too much of a poor beastard. Money could not do everything, but one could not do anything without money. So, this all happened because of your poor SS," complained Han Xiao. Kurlod felt extremely wronged. He was actually being accused of being poor by the man who robbed him. Was there still justice in this world? "Please allow me to express my deepest gratitude. Could I know your name?" Han Xiao. The captain repeated this to himself a few times to make sure that he did not hear incorrectly. He was sure that this was not the name of a famous warrior nor a mercenary. "I will keep my promise and reward each of you for protecting the ship." Lurden, who was standing to the side, coughed lightly. The captain hesitated for a second before saying, "Green Knight, you will also not be missing out on the reward." Although the captain knew that Lurden had run away halfway through the raid, he did still fight and contribute to their victory. Lurden nodded. All the players who accepted the mission were able to get a cut. After they each registered their own accounts, they were each able to receive 1,500 enas from the captain. That amount of money was just shy of Kurlod's pay for half of a year, and was worth quite a lot. Han Xiao's savings instantly broke past 10,000 enas, and his heart tingled with happiness. This was the first payment that he had gotten after coming to space, and the amount was pretty good. He now had a pretty decent starting fund. He was also glad that the players had gotten their pay because this meant that they would finally be able to contribute to the economy. All he had to do was look for opportunities to sell them things, and enas would start rolling into his account. If he had been the only one doing the mission, he would only have been able to earn a fixed amount. However, with the players' participation, that amount potentially increased several dozen times. The players were like Han Xiao's mini bank accounts. Completed. The captain's favor completed. Area reputation unlocked. Location, Colton Star Cluster, Garten Galaxy. Renown, 2. Level, some random mob. After receiving his cut of the reward, Lurden was about to turn and leave, but Han Xiao's eyes flashed, and he took big steps, blocking Lurden. What is it? Lurden stopped. Han Xiao had made quite a deep impression on him, and he was a bit alarmed at why the other would try to stop him. Han Xiao's eyes darted around before he coughed and said, I caught the boneless bird's leader, Serpent Braid, and was about to be on my way to turn in his bounty. However, it seems like I would have to go to a decently faraway galaxy for that. I don't really feel like going that far right now. How about I sell this bounty to you? Lurden paused for a second before replying, sure, that's fine. Snake's bounty is 3,500 enas. You can transfer the money. Lurden frowned. You don't expect me to pay you in full, right? It will cost a considerable amount to travel to another galaxy. Why would I do this if there's nothing in it for me? How much do you want to pay? 1,500. Why don't you go rob a store instead? Han Xiao smelled something. It smelled like someone who was one of his own. His eyes immediately focused, and he said slowly, 3,000. 18,000. At least 2,900. 2,000. The two went back and forth for quite a while. Lurden barely budged when it came to money, and he was not willing to let go of even the tiniest profit. Although he looked like a cold person, he was now arguing until his face was red for the sake of a few hundred enas. After arguing the good half of the day away, the two finally agreed on a price. Lurden will be paying 2,501 enas in exchange for Serpent Braid. Han Xiao considered it his victory for the single extra enas. After making the deal, Han Xiao felt like he had gotten somewhat closer to Lurden. His eyes flashed and asked, do you know the reason behind this raid? This group of scavengers were paid to act on the behalf of Dark Star. They were ordered to capture that Godarin over there. How unlucky, right? When Lurden heard Dark Star, his pupils immediately contracted, and his eyes gave of a glint of pain and hatred, as if he suddenly remembered a painful memory from the past. Oh, I see. Han Xiao chuckled and pointed at Lurden's armor. I'm a mechanic. If you don't mind, I can do some repairs for you. Lurden stopped in his tracks and asked, for free. Hehe, we're not that close yet, but I only need a little fee for it. I will fix your gear for 5 enas. Then it's fine. Glad to meet you. Bye. He turned and left without another word. Han Xiao felt helpless and clicked his tongue. Won't even spend 5 enas. How stingy. Han Xiao nodded and made some calculations in his mind. He had initiated a conversation with Lurden on purpose. Aside from turning over Serpent Braid, he had also wanted to introduce himself to Lurden. He was able to come up with a new plan from their conversation. The Sunil tribe was a tribe that lived in the Garden Galaxy. They had a pretty awesome storyline. Although it should only have been available in a later version, Han Xiao was able to confirm that the storyline was already in effect from his previous conversation with Lurden. He remembered that the Sunil storyline would offer the opportunity to earn a very rare subclass. Han Xiao was currently stuck because of the class change requirement, and was in need of a new subclass. After the scavenger attack, Shorthorn Star headed straight for the Jubilee hub without making any stops. After several days, a massive fortress that floated in space appeared outside the windows of their ship. The Jubilee hub looked like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, with its futuristic steel structures standing out in the backdrop of countless distant stars. It looked both intimidating and mysterious at the same time. Spaceships came and went through its docks in an unceasing manner, and their massive engines left behind lines of multicolored light in space. Thousands of these lines surrounded the space station, and even though there was no sound in space, it was as if a magnificent fireworks show was being held. Such was the beauty of civilization. Shorthorn Star, which was only comparable to a small city in size, was like a tiny pea next to a watermelon when put next to the Jubilee hub. The players, who had never seen this before, had looks of awe on their faces. They were shocked to the core. One would truly feel insignificant when in front of a space station such as that. So big. It's basically a small planet. So, this is Galaxy. The players could not hold their excitement back, and soon, they even fell in love with the sight in front of them. The shimmering stars in space would remain to be a wonder for all who looked up at their skies. The players were no different. Bunhit Dog made sure to record everything, and he hated that he could not use more cameras to capture this moment. Entering the Jubilee Hub was the first step in their journey in space. The Jubilee Hub was a middle point, a massive hub where countless forces interacted with each other on a daily basis. Information from all over the Colton star cluster passed through the hub. It could basically be treated as a main city, as it offered many features such as rooms for rent. To Han Xiao, the Jubilee Hub would be an important place for the first part of his plan. I'm finally free. Kurlod was emotional as he stretched out his arms, as if trying to embrace the sky. Calm down. It's not like I treated you badly. I didn't torture you. Han Xiao gave him a sidelong glance before saying, you even earned 1,500 Inas because of me. I feel like you should be thanking me instead. I need to go back to work, and I need to submit a report. I won't go back on our promise, and I will make sure to not trouble you with my report. Even if you don't trust my words, you should be aware that due to the dangerous nature of the observer's job, what you did wasn't nearly enough to warrant a bounty on your head. There's something I need to tell you. I hope you can put it down in the report. Before you say anything, I respect my work as an investigator, so don't bother telling me to write fake news, Kurlod said with a confused expression. If you respect your work, then pigs can also fly. After Han Xiao went speechless for a second, he continued speaking with a serious tone. Planet Aquamarine is now covered in a mist of shadow. I believe that there will be a disaster that could wipe out the entire planet. I hope that you can emphasize this point on your report, and if the department has plans to investigate Planet Aquamarine again, I suggest that they look for clues about the disaster. Kurlod did not really pay much attention, but he said, I'll put it in the report. Han Xiao was not sure whether the mutation disaster had begun. It would not be a disaster that could shake the entire version if the cause was easy to find. The probability that the Godoran Investigation Department would listen to his suggestion was ridiculously slim. Okay, that's it. You can go now. Hope we'll meet again. Han Xiao then suddenly said, remember to take your first step with your left foot. Huh? Kurlod was extremely confused. He waved as he said goodbye. After some thought, he stepped out with his right leg and disappeared into the distance. He's so obedient, Han Xiao muttered with a smile. The registration office for the resting room was in the central white tower. The third level of the tall tower was the registration office. A lot of people were lining up, and Han Xiao was one of them. He slowly inched forward with the line. After half an hour, Han Xiao saw a group of people cut through the line and stand in the VIP channel. The staff of the hub appeared and respectfully welcomed the group. Why don't they have to line up? Maple Moon asked curiously. Han Xiao recalled the sign and said, they are people from Sky Ring, and they are also called the Sky Ring Army. There are tens of thousands of members in the army. This organization comes from the Jelok Star Cluster and does not belong to any civilization. They are free mercenaries who are famous in the Shattered Star Ring. They are hired to be bodyguards, soldiers, explorers, and directors to start a colony. They even take jobs to fight in wars. They have a famous reputation, so they get the VIP treatment. After waiting in line for what felt like an eternity, it was finally Han Xiao's turn. There were all sorts of rooms, and since Han Xiao still had money, he rented a middle-level resting room with a storage room. The room was large enough to fit in a dozen of people, and it only cost 40 Inas per month. We will stay in the Jubilee Hub for a while. This will be our base for now. Since this is the first time that you have all left the planet, take some time to adapt to the new environment. No one had any objections as they were still in the state of confusion in the new world. Han Xiao took out a book containing all the rules on Jubilee Hub. Read the regulations first. Don't break the rules, or else you will be captured by the security team. I need to do something first, so you all stay here and don't leave the room. Jubilee Hub had a security team to facilitate safety and peace. They would instantly catch anyone committed a crime or broke the rules. The players all gathered around and read the regulations. Han Xiao left the resting room alone and headed to the exchange center. With the money that he had left, he first had to buy some class advancement knowledge. From the 3 branches and 15 knowledges in total, only 8 were on sale. All the prices for the items were more than 10,000 Inas. Knowledge lichen were sold up to 50,000 Inas. The reason that the knowledge was this expensive was probably that the major organizations did not have to share the information, and people did not want to build relationships with camps, so they could only spend a fortune to buy the knowledge. After searching through the list, he could buy a class advancement knowledge that was barely useful. The knowledge was more utility-based, where it focused on detection and scouting using methods such as radiation, waves, and light spectrum. At least it's better than nothing. Han Xiao sighed and confirmed the payment. He had now obtained 3 advanced knowledges and was only in need of 2 more to meet one of his class change requirements. Now, the problem was money. However, Han Xiao's motto was to get rich together with the players, expand their market, and earn the NPC's money with the players. Han Xiao had the advantage of knowing about the storylines already. Although this part of the game was kind of a gray area in his memories, he could still remember enough bits and pieces to matter. For example, he knew where to find the long-term mercenary contracts that could get him quite a lot of money. After he returned to waiting room, he found that most of the players were waiting there patiently. However, after scanning the room, he realized that Li Ji and the Temple of God players were nowhere to be found. Han Xiao frowned and asked, "Where are the others?" They said that they wanted to take a look outside to familiarize with the environment, and would be back in a moment, Bun-Hit Dog explained. Han Xiao narrowed his eyes. Bullshit. Do they think I don't understand how their minds work? They're just excited about entering a new environment and couldn't wait to interact with the new NPCs and trigger missions, thus ignoring my instructions. Most players were selfish. This was an indisputable point. It was even more so for the pro players. But really, could they not even wait there for a few minutes? Clearly, the allure of the shiny new world had gotten to them. This was also one of the things that Han Xiao worried about. As new opportunities popped up one after another, the players would start getting ideas of their own and would have less reason to always stick with him. Follow me. It's time for work. Han Xiao turned and walked out the doors with the players following right behind him. The group of people arrived in front of a huge building with a main hall that was similar in size to a town square. People of different species could be seen throughout the building, going about their business. Some sat, some were walking around, and some conversed with each other. However, all of these people were fully clad in battle gear, and pretty much all of them were supers. "What is this place?" the players asked as they looked left and right. "The Mercenary Alliance," Han Xiao said slowly, "a powerful neutral organization that offers swords for hire. This organization's business can be seen in all corners of the universe. It was founded by the 3 big civilizations in space. They maintain absolute neutrality, and all intelligent life forms can register to become one of their mercenaries." Multiple fist-sized metal balls could be seen floating around the Great Hall of the Mercenary Alliance. These balls would fly toward players with a wave from their hands, forming a virtual screen upon contact. This was a kind of an automatic management system that allowed the mercenaries to take on jobs on their own. Han Xiao retrieved a ball and opened up the virtual interface. "Please enter your mercenary account username to proceed." A robotic voice sounded out of the small ball. Han Xiao directly selected the register option, and the screen changed. Han Xiao needed a mercenary nickname. He was called Black Phantom on planet Aquamarine, but he felt like that name wasn't domineering enough. He decided to use a new name to also pique the players' interests. After a bit of thinking, Han Xiao said slowly, "Then let's call myself Black Star." Black Phantom was a name for a killer and felt a little bit edgy. He felt that the new name sounded much more righteous and fitted his image quite well. The great mechanic Han was pleased with himself. He chose the color black because he felt a connection to this color. Data collection complete. Creating file. Mercenary codename, Black Star. Credibility rating, 10. Strength level, C. Class, Mechanic. Certificates and badges, none. Faction or group, none. Summary, Mercenary Recruit. File creation complete. Data has been entered into the system. Black Star, welcome to the Mercenary Alliance. Mercenaries Identity Interface had an option create a mercenary group. Han Xiao clicked in without hesitation. A mercenary group was a team made out of mercenaries that could accept people's missions. A mercenary group also had rating system, and all their actions would be recorded in the system. Even a member who finished a mission by themselves would be recorded in the ratings of the mercenary group. At the same time, if a member left a bad record, it would also influence the rating of mercenary group. You all have the requirement to register as a mercenary. Join my mercenary group, and I will take care of you all, Han Xiao said in a seductive voice. Frenzied Sword did not hesitate and was the first to register. He only had 2 rules. First, he could eat well if he followed Han Xiao. Second, Han Xiao was always right. The other players slowly joined, and Han Xiao smiled as he watched the whole process, as if he was seeing all the seeds buried into the soil, waiting for them to grow. Through this interface, Han Xiao had access to all the faction-related features a player would have, and he could also give out faction missions, albeit a limited amount. The level of reward that he could give out was dependent on his own level, faction rank, faction influence, and legendary points. Faction reward limit 92,000. Faction leader level 70. Officers none. Faction size 47. Renown 2. Faction leader legendary points 3. Allies and enemies none. 92,000 was the limit for a single mission, but the daily total limit was 20 times that amount, far more than the limit for individual members, which was only 5 times more. You are the Black Star Mercenary Group's first batch of recruits. You have gained 300 contribution points. Current relationship status, neutral. Once they entered the faction reward page, an assortment of items was displayed in front of them. Most of these items were originally in Xiao's personal NPC shop, and he simply moved them over to the faction page. Moreover, he also threw in some good stuff that was not available from his shop. There were the Ranger 2.5 robots, each costing 1,500 contribution points to exchange, mini mobile turrets, each costing 1,200 points, and the original Python mechanical suit, which cost 6,000 points. The equipment and items instantly caused a reaction from the players. Good stuff. God tier gear. The players were moved. These items had previously been unavailable to purchase no matter how much money they had. The mercenary group is newly established, and the credibility rating is still quite low, Xiao said. Only by raising our credibility rating can we take on higher level missions. We're all comrades in arms now. Let's work hard together for the future of the mercenary group. Immediately after, he made the faction size information visible to all the players in the interface. He wanted to use this as a reminder for them that they could take on jobs with better pay once they raised their rating. He immediately used the newly gained interface to issue a faction mission. Faction mission. Mission introduction. Black Star Mercenary Group has decided to take on an outbound assignment. However, the minimum credibility rating must first be met. Mission requirement. Complete the daily missions and jobs at the hub center until the Black Star Mercenary Group has acquired 120 credibility points. Reward. 45,000 experience and 300 faction contribution points. Remark. The 3 top contributors to meeting the credibility rating minimum will receive additional benefits. There isn't much experience awarded, but the contribution points rewarded are not bad. Did you not see? This is only the first part. We will be able to take on the combat assignment later on. That's where we'll be able to get the experience. This is a team mission, right? It's asking for everyone to contribute to the 120 points total. Ho ho. You even get benefits for being the top 3. Frenzied Sword, Hao Tian, and the others got excited and could not sit still after seeing the reward. They knew better than anyone that Xiao's benefits would definitely not be ordinary. After he returned to the resting room, he decided to make some preparations as well as think through his future plans. A few hours later, Li Ji and the others returned to the resting room. They had been walking around outside for quite a while. Li Ji had left for space because he wanted to trigger all those new missions. With so many new NPCs at the hub center, he could not wait to explore around and see what missions he could accept. However, he found out that most people there were travelers, and they all laughed Li Ji and the others away when they tried to offer help. The NPCs asked them why they did not just go to the Mercenary Alliance if they wanted to take on jobs. Although they could not receive any missions, they were able to get a new piece of information. After heading to the Mercenary Alliance and busying themselves for half the day, they finally registered themselves as mercenaries. Seeing the countless listings of jobs and missions convinced them that they had made the right choice in coming to space. Furthermore, Li Ji believed that acting by themselves was the right action to take, as they had gained a lead on the other players. The group of people chatted as they walked to the room's entrance. We have gained an advantage this time. Do you think we should tell others about this mercenary thing? Li Ji shook his head. This is an opportunity that we found. We're all competing against each other here. There's no need to tell them straight away. You guys are finally back. You are the only ones left. What do you mean? Li Ji asked. All the other players have already joined my mercenary group. How about you? Li Ji froze. Does that mean that everyone else has already become mercenaries? Then what was the point of all our hard work? And what's a mercenary group? A bad feeling slowly arose in their hearts. We've already registered as mercenaries, Li Ji replied honestly. Xiao raised his brows and announced a mission to join the Black Star Mercenary Group. Li Ji had nowhere else to go, so they quickly accepted the mission, went to the mercenary lobby, and joined the mercenary group. Right after that, they activated the mission that other players had begun a while ago. Seeing the faction introduction and the mission requirement, Li Ji and others could not believe their eyes. Li Ji was upset. This was supposed to be their treatment, but because they had moved on their own, they were behind in process compared to the other players. Just before they got back, they had been feeling pleased with themselves, but now, Lai Ji only felt embarrassed. He had wasted so much time and energy wandering around, and he had not achieved anything other than lagging behind in progress. After talking with the other players, Lai Ji also found out that the other group of players had gotten a reward of 300 contribution points. His mood was extremely poor. He regretted that he did not stay put and instead ran around like a monkey. Why did they think that they knew more about the universe than Han Xiao? The other players soon heard about Lai Ji's anguish and laughed. At the same time, they had more faith in Han Xiao. Han Xiao was the only beam of light that they should follow. If they followed Han Xiao, they could get the most benefits rather than trying their luck outside. With the hard work of the players, the mercenary group's credibility rating increased little by little. Han Xiao rented a machinery modification room and tried to make a new battle helmet using the new knowledge that he had gained and the resources that he had brought from planet Aquamarine. It had multiple layers of detection and could detect living creatures within several kilometers. It also had a strong radar function and strong life support systems such as air filtration. Han Xiao made a dozen of them and prepared to sell them to the players. The helmet was essential equipment for missions in space. After a few days, Bunhitdog finally released the first episode of his space adventure, and the forums seemed to only discuss the topic. The title of this episode indicated that it was the start of a new series. The editing of the opening of the show changed to the view of Shorthorn Star, Jubilee Hub, and an alien creature with a weird shape. A few minutes had passed, and viewers flooded the channel in an instant. Bunhitdog's Black Phantom show had built a solid, loyal fan base. This trailer for the new series also garnered a lot of attention. It was the first show about space, and not only the players from planet Aquamarine, even foreign players from other new planets were excited about the show. The view count rose exponentially, and within a few minutes, it almost broke the record for the highest view count in the past shows. Welcome to the Galaxy Exploration Diary. I am Bunhitdog. You might be wondering if something is missing. That's right, since I haven't had enough time, there won't be a poem to start off this episode. Bullet comments instantly covered the screen. One can never be too careful. This host doesn't have any dignity. Screw your family. For the first episode of the Black Star series, Bunhitdog used a different editing method, which did not follow the previous format where he focused on informative content. He filmed the entire process of Han Xiao leading the players up to the Shorthorn Star, and then onto Jubilee Hub. Then he edited the video in the style of a movie. It gave up the informative tone that the previous show focused on. For this new show, there was barely any narration, and with some adjustment to the color of the scene, the audience had a new experience as if they were watching a TV series. Because there was too much materials to use, Bunhitdog could not edit the size down. So, he directly changed the show to a video with a story, and the video was an hour long. The show was like a black hole, sucking in all the attention into this beautiful scene. When Han Xiao appeared on the screen, the bullet comments went on a rampage again. Han Xiao finally showed up. Suck everything out of Black Phantom. Hugging Black Phantom is just a 100-meter sprint. Han Xiao is my husbando. Don't you dare touch my love. Oh my. Black Phantom is now up in the heavens. There are no more boxes for me to open. I still need to gamble. I need to prove my true lineage. Bunhitdog also edited in some interactions of the professional players. Of course, he had gotten their approval to use the footage first. These players had gotten to know each other as the days passed, and their relationship had become closer and closer. Their interactions were funny and entertaining, which also attracted a lot of fans to watch the show. Suddenly, the scavengers showed up, and Han Xiao and the players protected the spaceship. The bullet comments flooded the screen again, and all sorts of messages were there. Holy cow, in this new simulation of space travel, you can also kill monsters and get experience. Black Phantom is still so strong. He still owned the aliens like it was nothing. Seeing that Han Xiao is still wrecking everyone, I can now drop my worries. In the journey to the Jubilee Hub, the large space station made the viewers' jaws dropped. The video also came to an end there. In the last scene, Han Xiao led the players to the Mercenary Alliance, and everyone registered as a mercenary. As the camera zoomed in, it looked on the words Black Star Mercenary Group and froze the frame for 3 seconds. The audience also stared at those words. Then the screen turned black with 3 words, to be continued. When the video ended, the audience was greatly unsatisfied, wanting to see more of the show, feeling the emptiness of not being able to watch a new episode. The last 3 seconds of the show created great interest and curiosity of the name Black Star in the hearts of the audience. Of course, this episode hinted at the great potential storyline in the future. I can't wait for another episode. I won't go anywhere until I see the next episode. I want to lock Bun Hit Dog in my basement as my slave to pump out more shows. I think you would like that. Hey, what are you thinking? I'm ashamed of you dirty-minded creatures. The view count of this episode skyrocketed to an unprecedented level. The audience cheered, and the players who had not been chosen by Han Xiao were drowned in jealousy, hating themselves for not being able to last 30 seconds. The influence that this episode brought made the Galaxy Times add another section to their new show. A long time ago, we deduced that the storyline character had its own limit, where once they finished their storyline, they would turn into a nobody. However, this incident shows that we were completely wrong. Han Xiao proved us wrong. His activity was not limited by the level of the civilization. He headed deep into space and became the first man from planet Aquamarine to explore the universe. This is his new arc. We thought that Han Xiao was only a character on planet Aquamarine. From what we have seen now, everyone guessed wrong. He did not have only one war storyline. He has another more advanced main storyline on space exploration. How far could he go? Han Xiao also saw the show, and the effect achieved what he wanted. The players looked up to him even more, which meant that Han Xiao was accepted at a deeper level in their hearts. Thousands of players discussed frantically on the forums, and the heat of the topic did not stop. However, no one would think that Bun Hit Dog's episode was not only popular for a short period of time. The show stayed relevant for much longer than people had thought. In the future, countless people would go back to this episode, which became known as the beginning of Black Star. The daily missions were the low-level missions. Once a faction's credibility rating had reached a certain level, daily hiring missions could no longer be used to gain credibility points. This ensured that factions' credibility rating reflected their actual capability. 120 points happened to be the first cutoff. This was the minimum to become an official mercenary group, one that would actually attract potential clients. The pro players had great efficiency. Their faction was able to gain 120 credibility points in 2 short days. Han Xiao then released the faction mission reward, with King Admiral Hao Tian and the Berserkers team captain, Yan Ran, being the top 3 contributors. The players whom Han Xiao had recruited were not just limited to the 4 big guilds, and he had also made sure to get people from the top-ranking gaming clubs and teams from the tournament, such as Thunderstorm and the Berserkers. Han Xiao gave those 3 additional rewards and also re-emphasized to the players that contributing to the faction would net them a lot of benefits. The additional reward was his newly produced. It was something that could only be exchanged with 800 faction points and immediately invited the other players' envy. Then, Han Xiao announced, "This helmet can greatly enhance your sight and function in many extreme environments." He explained the helmet's functions in a way that implied the necessity of this helmet for the future outbound missions. The 3 winners quickly put on the helmet to test its features for themselves. The internal screen displayed all kinds of analyzed information of their surroundings, such as energy density. They could even adjust the display themselves. The function of this item was clear to see, and it also gave decent protection for the head. It was an item that suited all player classes. Frenzied Sword was close to Hao Tian, and he was able to borrow the helmet to test it out himself. After putting it on, he could not help but say, "It really is a good item." After the others saw this, they also took turns putting on the helmet to see for themselves. They were then convinced that they had to earn this item in the future, with the reward given for being the first batch of recruits along with the previous faction mission reward. Most of the players had already accumulated 600 contributions points and were only 200 short of the helmet. Han Xiao had set the price of the helmet to 800 points on purpose to bait the players' frustrated feelings. Being just short of being able to obtain the item would make them want to either do more missions or even give up their own items or even money in exchange for it. Although it seemed like the players had been able to easily gain 600 contribution points, it was all just a strategy that Han Xiao had long been implementing whenever he dealt with the players. He converted the players' desire for an item into something of a physical value. The exchange rate of Ina's to faction contribution points that he had decided on for now was 50, 100 for those with a neutral status, which was 0, 1000 contribution points. So, in the player's mind, the helmet's value was 400 Inas. Now that they could buy it at 25% of the original price after using their contribution points to pay the rest, they felt like they were getting a huge bargain. Half of the players had earned 1,500 Inas from the Shorthorn Star raid and were itching to spend their money on something. The other half did not have a lot as they had only been doing some daily jobs. However, most of them decided to borrow from the other half out of desperation. You don't have to worry about me not paying you back. Where could I even run off to here? I will owe you a favor if you lend me some money. After a chaotic scene, the last group of players was able to obtain their own helmets after getting into debt. Of course, the Temple of God players were the most in debt, making Lai Ji feel very bad. With 50 or so customers, Han Xiao was able to make over 6,000 INAs in one go for all the helmets that he had made, so he was feeling very pleased with himself. These helmets had been made with materials from planet Aquamarine and actually cost next to nothing. A profit margin here was practically insane. After their group of people arrived at the lobby of the Mercenary Alliance, Han Xiao got ready to open the interface to accept the jobs offered by the Sunil tribe. However, he realized that the lobby was a little odd today. I am from a materials investigation team that is on its way to Planet Garten 791 for a 3-day on-site investigation. We're looking to hire bodyguards. Each person will be paid 400 INAs, and you will be responsible of protecting our team members. None of the surrounding mercenaries were bothered enough to take on the job. Han Xiao's eyes flashed, and he checked his star map. Garten 791 is close to the Sunil's home base. We could earn some cash on the way. Although the reward is only 400 INAs, if each of our 50 people can get it, it's still not too bad. Let me check your credibility rating. Martin gave Han Xiao a quick scan with his eyes and was quite happy. He had finally found someone who would take up his offer after shouting there for half the day. Han Xiao pulled up his mercenary information page and passed it to Martin. When Martin saw that this mercenary group had reached the credibility rating requirement, he was overjoyed. However, his expression changed immediately when he scrolled further down the page. You've never accepted any combat assignments. Black Star Mercenary Group's resume was filled with the daily jobs that could be completed in the hub. Many were cleaning missions. Normally, mercenaries would not even bother themselves with such jobs. This resume gave Martin quite a shock. He had never seen such a noob mercenary group. Han Xiao raised an eyebrow. What's wrong here? We meet the credibility rating requirement, right? I want warrior bodyguards. And all your records were filled with daily routines in Jubilee Hub as if you are the janitor here, Martin said in a condescending tone. You are not qualified for my job hiring. Martin waved his hand with annoyance. Even though he was very cheap, he did not lower his standards and wanted the best warrior that he could find with the cheapest price. The Blue Nye's personality was always like this, cheap and greedy. Martin saw the opportunity and quickly pressured the price. With this record, I can only offer 200 INAs per person. Farewell. Han Xiao left without looking back. Martin's attitude irritated Han Xiao, and the great mechanic Han would never let others pressure him. It was fine if they did not take that job since there were so many other opportunities, so there was no need to beg in front of an annoying man. He opened the mercenary interface and found a few hiring requests from Sunils, all about the same event. The homeland of Sunil had been destroyed. With the help of Godera, the civilization had moved to another planet filled with nature and forests. It had been renamed Planet Sunil. Planet Sunil had a lot of wild beasts roaming around the planet. Most of the time, the beasts were passive. However, there was a stone that contained evil spirit deep below the ground of planet Sunil, and it would turn the beasts on rampage once in every few years. Sunil's villages and cities would all be affected. Every time. During this period, the warriors of Sunil working away from the planet would all return and protect their homeland while gathering more helpers. Han Xiao put out the reward of the mission onto the reward for the faction mission. The players felt like they were getting double reward. It was the first time that Black Star Mercenary Group had selected a battle-type mission, so the players were excited. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and enable notifications so you don't miss the next chapter.